Good morning. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to the Saturday Show. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me, getting ready to take you through a Saturday morning of sports. Alex, how's your week?
Good week, man. It was fun to, kind of get a little bit of injection of a little bit of football, man.
Yeah.
I almost miss it, and so to see the draft and to see all this happen, it was fun to get invested back into football.
It's funny how the NFL offseason works. I mean, you've got the Super Bowl in February, and then for about a month, it's all leading up to the combine and all these rumors and stuff. And then from the combine until April, it's just speculation and projection, and there doesn't need to be any stories because nothing ever really happens. But, of course, the NFL just dominates the sports news cycle. And then the draft comes around, and it actually matters. I've liked the draft so far. I really enjoy watching it every year. I don't really watch the second or third round. I'm kind of staying updated with it, obviously, but I always watch the first round. I have a lot of fun with that. But I don't know. Today could be fun. I think we haven't seen a lot of player trades yet. We've seen a lot of pick trades, especially yesterday. I think there were like 18 or something like that. I would think that today we might see some players start to get traded. The Dolphins have had some issues with Jalen Ramsey. Kirk Cousins could get moved, things like that. But who knows? Anyway.
It'll be fun to watch, man. And, as far as watching it and the first round and whatnot, they could shorten it.
Oh, yeah.
It's too long.
I totally agree. I mean, the Titans have known that they've had the number one pick since January, right? I don't think that they need a timer at all. And we've known that they were taking Cam Ward for weeks.
Right.
There was no question there whatsoever. I don't think the Titans need a timer at all. But no, I'm with you. Before we get into the sports, though, how was your week, man? You got a highlight or anything?
Highlight of my week. Hey, man, I was out there doing some soccer yesterday. Went up to Davis High School, did some high school boys soccer. Davis got the win over Syracuse, and it was fun to be back. It was fun to be back out there calling some soccer, man.
Okay.
Yeah. What's yours?
I don't really know if I have a particular... I went out, you know what? Yeah, yesterday I went out and played some Frisbee golf. That was nice.
Oh, nice.
First round of the year. I'm a bit sad because ever since I moved to Layton, there's not a Frisbee golf course anywhere near there. I used to live in North Salt Lake, and there was one like 5 minutes away from my apartment. But I went up to good old Brigham City and played with a friend up there. So, yeah, that was probably my highlight.
Good old Brigham City.
I got to play with Lowry Markkinen. I think he's really into Frisbee golf.
I think so, man. Yeah.
That would be fun.
That would be cool.
I wonder how good he is.
He's talked about it before, right? In interviews?
Yeah.
He loves to be out there doing it.
Yeah, it's nice. There's some actually really beautiful courses here in Utah, especially down in southern Utah where I went to college, down in Cedar City. They've got a really, really nice course down there. But
there you go, man.
I'm not going to bore everybody with that. Anyway, Sean, highlight?
I grilled my first steak of the season
Hey!
last night.
You have your
That's
own
my
grill?
highlight. Yeah,
Wow. Gas or charcoal?
just gas, yeah.
Nice.
Nice and easy.
Hey,
It was so good.
We're doing some burgers tonight, man. I mean, got some friends coming over.
Look at you guys.
Doing some burgers, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Summer's in swing, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
love
that's
it.
the best.
Love it.
Cool. Yeah, good for you guys. I'm sure as it starts to warm up, I mean, it is that time of the year. Everybody's busting out the lawnmower and the grill.
It's the best time, man.
All right. Where do you want to start, Alex? Let's start draft, obviously. Should we hit the elephant in the room first, or should we talk about the rest of the first round before we get into Shedeur Sanders?
Let's talk about the rest of the draft.
All right.
Because the elephant is getting overplayed.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay, we will talk about Shedeur Sanders coming up in a bit. But first, I mean, we'll start from the top. Obviously, Cam Ward going to the Titans, that was something that, like we were just talking about, we knew was always going to happen. Don't know how good of a quarterback he will be. There were a lot of talks about, even if Cam Ward came out in last year's draft, he probably would have been the 7th best quarterback in last year's draft. But Tennessee needs a guy, and they're taking a swing there. I do think it was cool that Warren Moon gave Cam Ward permission to wear the number
That
one
is awesome.
Jersey in Tennessee. So that's pretty special. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I don't hate the pickup from Tennessee.
No, I mean, you got to do it.
It's better than the options you have now, right? Will Levis isn't going to get the job done.
No.
We've seen it. We know that. Cam Ward, they need a franchise quarterback, and Cam Ward, I believe, can possibly help them.
And you know what? Swing until you hit it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the best philosophy when it comes to finding your guy. I think the best recent example is probably the Arizona Cardinals, and I know that Kyler Murray is still borderline franchise guy, but they took Josh Rosen, and he didn't work out. And I think it was the year after. It was
the year,
1 year after.
Right year after, yep.
They ended up with the number 1 overall pick. They took Josh Rosen, I think, top 10. Then they end up with the number 1 pick the next season and take Kyler Murray. And everybody was like, wow, you're not gonna try and develop Josh Rosen into a guy? And they're like, nah, we'd rather take another swing and hit Kyler. So sorry, Will Levis, your time in Tennessee has come to an end. It's Cam Ward season, and we'll see.
I'm excited to see it. But I mean, that one wasn't, so much of a surprise. I feel like everybody felt at that point that Cam Ward was going to be the number 1 overall pick. Congratulations, Cam Ward. The surprise, though, comes with pick number 2.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because there were all these tweets coming from insiders leading into, on Thursday leading up to the draft. Jacksonville is looking to how everybody was wording it the same. That's how you know that they're fed information from an agent or an executive or whatever. It was worded that they were going to make a splash or something. And everybody kind of expected that to mean they're drafting Ashton Ginty at number 5. And that was kind of the thought. But all of a sudden, Cleveland is on the clock at number 2. They trade down. Jacksonville moves up and takes Travis Hunter. And boy, the smile on his face. He looked like a guy who for months thought that he was going to live in Cleveland. And now he finds out last second that he gets to stay in his home state of Florida. So that's pretty cool for him.
The way he was like walking down that little tunnel thing, walking up towards the stage, and he was jumping around.
I know, he was so
pumped.
excited.
You love to see it, man. He seems like a guy who just has a lot of good energy, a lot of positive energy. And again, Jacksonville trading up to get the unicorn, right, in this draft, to get the Travis Hunter. I think it's a good pickup for Jacksonville. And I think he's going to come in, and obviously he's going to be productive in the offense. I'm excited to see how they, do the whole double role, right? How much is he actually going to play on defense? How much is he actually going to play on offense? And we'll see what kind of role Travis Hunter takes at Jacksonville.
Especially, comparing Cleveland straight up to Jacksonville could maybe be a coin flip. I've never been to either city. But the Browns organization to the Jaguars organization, still neither one is much better than the other. But the thing is that separates it, Jacksonville has their franchise quarterback, and Jacksonville has another very productive receiver on the roster. Brian Thomas Jr. had a phenomenal rookie season.
That's right.
Last year. So as a wide receiver, that doesn't take away from Travis Hunter at all. That actually benefits him. That means that teams can't just double him all of the time. That's going to help him get open looks and make his life easier as a receiver, and then ultimately as a corner as well, if he's not having to expend so much energy on the offensive side. But I'm right there with you, Alex. I'm very curious to see how, what percentage of offensive and defensive snaps does he play? He played, I think it was like 700 snaps on both sides of the ball, 700 snaps at wide receiver and 700 at corner last year for Colorado, which is just a ridiculous number. And it would be crazy to expect the same thing out of him.
It would.
At the NFL level.
No, it absolutely would. But I am excited to see.
He wants to do it. He claims he can.
And I'm curious to see if he can.
Yeah, it's never really been done before. I mean, we've seen corners, Deion Sanders as coach in particular, he was a corner through and through, but then he would play some offensive snaps, but not even close to like 50% or even a quarter. Like he would take maybe a couple snaps here and there, special packages. So this would be something we've literally never seen before. I don't think it's something that he'll be able to do throughout an entire career. But, while he's young, through these first couple seasons, yeah, he'll probably play maybe 75% of offensive snaps and maybe 60% of defensive. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head, I guess. But I like the landing spot. I like it all around for the Jags, for Trevor Lawrence, and for Travis Hunter.
Again, excited to see what's going to happen. And honestly, man, they didn't really give too much up to go get him. Cleveland traded out from the 2nd, 104th, and 200th overall in exchange for that 5th, 36th, and 126th overall. Good move from Jacksonville.
And a next year first, right?
And a next year first. And a little bit of a head scratcher for Cleveland.
Yeah.
I feel like the Browns, they need a lot.
They need a lot. And that's probably why you trade down and just stack up picks, right?
Right.
Because Travis Hunter, for the Browns, again, comparing the two organizations, he fits so much better on the Jaguars than he does with Cleveland. He fits a need that is going to immediately make Jacksonville better. For the Browns, adding Travis Hunter isn't going to do a whole lot for you this season or probably next year either, where you have so many holes everywhere else. So you just stack up on picks. Mason Graham was really good at Michigan. I don't know if he's really the right pick at number 5. But then looking at the rest of the board, I don't really know where else they could have gone. The Eagles really have shown that having a better offensive and defensive line than everybody else makes things easier. So that's probably where they're leaning there.
Yeah.
And then, they already have Myles Garrett, so adding another dominant interior player is always going to be beneficial.
I think Mason Graham and Myles Garrett, I think that'll be a good I think that could be a really good combination, right? Mason Graham impressed a lot at Michigan, and you add that up with one of the best, end guys in Myles Garrett. I think that's a pretty good combination there on your defensive line.
Number 6, too high for Ashton Jeanty?
No, I love it.
Oh, dude, I was so mad.
That you as a Broncos fan, yes, of course. But honestly,
it's a great pick.
It's a phenomenal pick, right? I think a new system, Pete Carroll coming in as head coach. The running back room situation for the Las Vegas Raiders last year was
abysmal.
It was atrocious.
Yeah.
It was not good. Alexander Madison,
he sucked.
It just wasn't that guy. And you really needed a star running back, and now you have Ashton Jeanty, who I think can carry a lot. Obviously, he's going to be carrying a lot of that production in the run game for the Las Vegas Raiders. Pair that up with Geno Smith. You pair that up with Pete Carroll in the new system. I think that things are looking up for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well,
right
they
now.
drafted last year. They drafted Brock Bowers, who's an absolute stud.
And then absolutely, you add Brock Bowers to that too, man.
So that's just going to make life easier for Geno Smith, and then eventually, when they get an actual quarterback, they might be good here in a few years. But thankfully, I think Geno has a pretty low ceiling relative to a real franchise quarterback. But I do fear that Ashton Jeanty is going to be the next running back that consistently shreds Denver and the rest of the AFC West. I think he's a great player, man, and I'm really happy that, coming out of Boise State, playing in the Mountain West, finished second in Heisman voting, got his team to the college football playoff dang near single-handedly, getting drafted 6th overall for a running back. Awesome. And a lot of people are talking about, the running back is dead. That's way too high. Look, that was true 2 or 3 years ago. But if you look at the way the league has trended, it kind of advances and then goes backwards, and then advances and goes backwards. When Patrick Mahomes took over the league, that's when running backs didn't really matter. But look at what happened last year. There was all the talk about defenses playing too high safeties, taking away the deep threat, the explosive pass threat. And then you see teams like the Eagles and the Ravens who win games just by running it down your throat.
Yeah.
You need a running back now. And I think the day of the running back is back. And Derrick Henry has shown that you can play into your 30s and still be a very, very good player. Josh Jacobs in his upper 20s. Even Aaron Jones in Minnesota had a really good year last year. So I think, having a great running back is going to fit Las Vegas. It's going to fit Pete Carroll. Look at what Marshawn Lynch did in Seattle.
Absolutely.
I love the fit there. I really do.
And to go off of what you just said, the running back being back, it makes it even better for Vegas to take a running back at 6, especially Ashton Jeanty, who I think is going to have a long, successful career in the NFL.
There's no reason that Jeanty can't do what Saquon has been doing the last couple of years. And you know what? I don't think the Giants regret selecting Saquon as high as they did. I think it was 2nd or 3rd overall. They made bad moves after taking Saquon. That's the reason that they're not competitive right now. Not because they took Saquon Barkley. That's not what set them back.
I agree.
What set them back was drafting Daniel Jones and then giving him a second contract.
Yes.
If they never gave Daniel Jones that second contract, if they kept Saquon in New York, they'd be a playoff team right now. I believe that.
I would agree.
Don't need to spend a ton of time on this pick. I love Ted McMillan to Carolina. A lot of people were surprised by that. I wasn't really. Bryce Young last year got benched and then came back and looked a lot better.
Yes.
And it's always good to load up on weapons for your young quarterback.
Ted McMillan to the Panthers, like you just said, Bryce Young was playing a lot better towards the end of the season after that whole situation with Carolina. I'm honestly excited to see the Panthers this upcoming season, man. With Bryce Young kind of trending up, you give him one of the best receivers in this 2025 class in Ted McMillan. I'm interested to see how that combination goes. It could work out really, really well for Carolina.
One pick, before we get to Shedeur, one pick that I thought was really funny. Pick 17, the Cincinnati Bengals. We all know they need help on defense. They need just about everything. Their defense was one of the worst in the NFL last year. They take this guy, Shedeur Stewart, 4.5 sacks in his career at Texas A&M. 4.5 sacks in 3 seasons. 11 tackles for loss. But why does he get drafted so high? Athletic traits. I'm sick of this. When has this ever worked out for anybody?
Yeah, but that's what everybody looks at.
I know, and it's ridiculous. I think that is the worst mistake that teams make when it comes to scouting. My wife was talking about this. Like, why would they do that? And, because she's not super into sports. And I'm like, you know what? Keeping it simple is probably the best idea sometimes when it comes to things like this. I think teams really overthink it and talk themselves into something when they don't need to. I think there are plenty of better edge rushers available for Cincinnati, but they want to chase the guy, 6'5", 267, really athletic, great broad jump, great workout numbers. Who cares? What does that matter? When you're getting 4.5 sacks across 3 seasons.
Look, man.
I was perplexed.
I hope it works out because, like you mentioned, the Cincinnati Bengals need a lot of help defensively. They have one of the best, most explosive offenses, I feel like, in the NFL, but they just don't have the defense to complement them. They need a lot of help defensively, and if he can come in and he can do a job, then I guess good pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. But
look,
there was
happy
definitely better
wrong.
edge rushers to be taken at 17.
All right.
Head scratcher of a pick there from Cincinnati.
We got to talk about Shedeur. What is going on?
What did he say in that interview, man?
It's ridiculous.
That made everybody look at him completely different.
So, first off, I'll start by this. In no world is Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shuff, I'd even say Jalen Milroe. None of them are better prospects than Shedeur Sanders as far as just on-the-field performance. I mean, this guy, he was Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year last year. He threw for, 4,000-something yards. The touchdown numbers were there. The interception numbers were there. I was reading an article from CBS Sports this morning, and they were talking about what exactly went on in some of those pre-draft interviews, specifically with the New York Giants. And I think this is an interesting story. Shedeur Sanders met with head coach Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll had an offensive package for Shedeur Sanders to install, basically. He asked him to do it, and sounds like he didn't impress. Brian Dable let him know that he was disappointed with how it went, and Shedeur Sanders apparently voiced his displeasure with Brian Dable being disappointed with it. So it sounds like there's an attitude problem. It sounds like maybe that got out, word got out to other teams, and they're just, I don't necessarily want to, I got to be careful how I word this. It seems like teams are kind of banding together and saying, hey, there's no point in drafting this guy who was a borderline first-round talent. Okay, it's different if this is a quote-unquote generational prospect. Caleb Williams had his problems, right? His talent level was also a lot higher. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is not a talented quarterback. I think he could have a very long NFL career, if nothing else, as a backup. But with this sort of attitude, with this sort of, not work ethic, but, unwillingness to show an interest, teams don't want to risk that for a guy that may or may not stick around. It's just not worth it.
And I think that there's a lot that plays into it, too, with how Colorado and Dion have handled the pre-draft process, too. Dion has made a lot of noise leading up to the draft, leading up to Shedeur getting drafted.
Yeah.
The pro day, I was reading something online yesterday about the Colorado pro day where him and Travis Hunter were thrown around, and it basically being a circus.
Yes, I was reading that too, about the way that Colorado made it basically an event, right?
Yeah.
And they had like cookies and all these like logos.
They had
and,
credentials with the Prime logo on it, man.
Yes, and they were like big, thick, like iPad size.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
It's so weird. And I think, I think a lot of teams are just looking at that too and saying, do we really want to bring that into our environment?
Again, it's much different if you are the best quarterback in the class, in a strong quarterback class. Again, last year, Caleb Williams, very good college tape. There's a reason that teams were willing to take a risk. But it's a lot different for a guy who projects as, again, a fringe starter.
Towards the end of last week and, even throughout the earlier parts of this week, I started seeing mock drafts and from ESPN, CBS Sports, and a bunch of medias putting out mock drafts and having Shedeur fall out of the first. And coming into that Thursday night, I kind of felt it. I was like, he's going to fall.
Which is crazy because at points during the college football season, he was talked about as a top 5 pick.
Yeah, man.
And that's not an exaggeration at all. Even before the season started, there were talks of Travis Hunter and Shedeur going 1 and 2. And now 4th round is underway, still unselected. Cam Scatterbo, by the way, just got selected by the New York Giants. I know a lot of the people who are into the Big 12 loved watching him. So we'll see how he does there in New York.
I don't hate that, man.
Speaking of New York, shout out to Jackson Dart. Love to see local talent drafted. He is so far the only local player selected. Played at Roy High School and Corner Canyon. So, yeah,
Ole
that's
Miss.
cool for him. Ole Miss, yeah.
Still no Utah.
No
Still
Utah, no
BYU.
Utah State, no BYU. Jalen Royals, I would suspect, is the first local player drafted.
I thought, Royals had enough on him that he would probably go.
I thought he was going to go in round 2.
At least in the 3rd.
I really did think he was going to go in round 3 at the latest, but man, that's kind of rough. I was going through some of Jalen Royals' stats. He averaged 119 yards per game last year before he got hurt. And then the year prior, I think he led the NCAA in receiving touchdowns. So he's a very good player. I think whoever selects him is going to be happy. At this point, though, kind of wrapping things up with Shedeur Sanders, do you think he's going to get drafted at all, or do you think that he's better off at this point just being an undrafted free agent?
I think at some point before the draft ends, someone will take that chance. Someone will take the gamble, and someone will draft him, whether that be
Pittsburgh still doesn't have a guy.
Yeah, it could be Pittsburgh. We'll see, man. But I don't, with how much he was touted and with how much he was talked about for the months leading up to the draft, I'd be shocked for him to go undrafted.
Yeah, to me, honestly, I feel like it's a coin flip. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I mean, I'm surprised that he was not taken in the second round. And after that, it's like, you know what? If he's fallen this far, maybe he is better off being an undrafted free agent and, just picking where he wants to go.
Have we ever seen a top 5 projected draft pick completely fall out of the draft?
No. I've never seen a slide like this. It's
insane, man.
This is historic. And again, we got to kind of remember that it's not like he was ever this great prospect who was going to come in and save a franchise. He was always a risk, but he can play. There's no doubt about that. He can be an NFL player. It's just an attitude thing. It's just again, I don't think work ethic is really the right word because he's clearly put in enough work to be a very good football player. But it's off the field stuff. It's personality. It's throwing his offensive line under the bus. When, remember that Nebraska game when he said, how many times did Raiola get touched? Like, it's things like that add up, man. And I think the NFL is kind of making a statement saying, you know what? We are bigger than our players. This is not the NBA. The NFL is bigger than its players. There is no singular player that is more important than the league itself. The NBA, if they lose LeBron James, they're done. When LeBron James retires, they do not have a face of the league to take over. The NFL, who is the face of the league? You can name 10 different guys. There is no singular player that is bigger than the NFL, and I think they're trying to display that and show that and say, you know what, we're not going to let this kid, come in and try to run things just because his dad was a superstar.
It's not a bad way to look at it, and I think I have to agree.
Yeah, it is sad. I feel bad. Ultimately, I do feel bad for Shedeur because he is.
I feel bad for him, man, but he brought it upon himself.
He did, but I still feel bad for him because he's a kid. How old is he? He's got to be like 22, 23,
when
right?
You go up to, when you have your pre-draft interviews and you have pre-draft meetings and, you're in front of cameras and you're saying, if you pick me, I've won here, I've won at Jacksonville State, I won at Colorado. You pick me and I'm changing your culture. I'm changing,
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It just seems like it rubbed people the wrong way.
Well, clearly. Yeah. So we'll see. Again, the 4th round is underway right now. If he gets picked, you'll hear it here first. But I guess we'll see. Again, the Steelers they have not selected a quarterback at all throughout the draft. I think on the roster they have Mason Rudolph, and that is it. They are in talks with Aaron Rodgers, it sounds like, to bring him in. But regardless, I think maybe bringing in Aaron Rodgers and drafting Shedeur, it could be a mess.
Do you really want Shedeur learning under Aaron Rodgers?
As I said it, I kind of started thinking, you know what, maybe that's probably not a good idea.
That sounds like a terrible matchup.
Yeah. So we'll see. But again, we'll keep you updated here. We'll take a break. Coming up next on the other side, let's get into some NBA playoffs. How about that, Alex?
Let's do it, man.
All right. We'll hit playoffs next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, Sean behind the glass, pushing the buttons for us. Happy Saturday, everybody. Hope you've got some great weekend plans. The spring is in full swing. It's almost May. Can you believe that?
It's a good time, man. Yeah. You know what? This year's kind of going by pretty quick.
Yeah.
I felt like just yesterday it was January and we were watching, BYU basketball, Utah State basketball. And,
right.
And now we're at the draft.
It's crazy.
And it's about to be May.
Real quick, I just had a thought pop into my head. Shout out to everybody graduating.
Oh, yeah.
It is that time of the year. I know that SUU had their graduation this week. I'm sure some universities have already had theirs. I know Utah Valley. They have theirs next week. My younger brother is graduating, so shout out to him and everybody else that's put in the hard work. Yeah, congrats.
Congratulations, guys.
It's a big time. Man, graduation was crazy. It's a very long day, long process. A lot of standing around, a lot of sitting around.
Yeah. All to get
thousands of people.
All to get a piece of paper.
All to walk across the stage, shake a couple hands, make it official.
Yeah, man.
But it's fun.
Hey, before we get into the NBA, just one more thing on the draft.
Okay.
You know what really grinds my gears?
What is it?
The fact that the Thursday show and the Friday show, it's like, what, 3-4 hours long?
Uh-huh.
And yet you have the insiders, the Shefties of the world, tweeting the picks before it happens.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my... I turn off all their notifications. I always have them on throughout the year, right? But for the draft specifically, I turn them off.
Why are we having this 3-4 hour long show for them to just come over here and spoil the whole thing?
And it's not like right before. It's like 2 or 3 minutes before.
Yeah, man.
I remember last year during the draft, I turned off all of my notifications. I actually turned my phone off and set it down when Denver was on the clock.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want it spoiled for me. I knew they were taking Bo Nix, but I was like, I want to feel this in the moment. But no, I'm with you there. Yeah, very good point. But now it's helpful to have them on because like we're not watching, right?
Yeah. That's different.
So getting the updates, in the 4th round is a lot different. But yeah, good point.
One, it doesn't need to be 3 to 4 hours long. Give the teams 5 minutes. Don't have these like 20-minute segments in between picks to break down all the film and every single player. Doesn't need to be 3 to 4 hours long, and it doesn't need to be spoiled. That's it. That's all I have to say about the draft.
NBA, where do you want to start? Should we start with the Lakers? They lost last night. Luka had a stomach bug. Or should we start with Memphis?
Start with the Lakers.
Okay. Lakers, Luka, LeBron, do you think this is going to ultimately work out? Or do you think – so Minnesota leads 2-1 in this series. Do you think that they are ultimately going to go away? Do you think LA only lost because Luka was sick? Or do you think their problems go a little deeper than that?
It's going to be crazy to say this, but I think they need more defensive help.
Was that sarcastic when you said crazy to say this?
Well, I mean, you have Luka and LeBron, who are the two right now, possibly one of the two biggest superstars in this league, right?
Right.
And so you think that they're just going to steamroll everybody by scoring 120 a night.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't been the case.
No.
And they need help defensively, right? They can't. I mean, especially Luka.
Yeah.
Needs to be better defensively. LeBron at 40. He can do it, but he's showing. Right? He's showing he's 40.
In his prime, he was one of the best defenders in the league. But, yeah, at 40 years old, it's hard to do both. I think that was always their biggest problem once that Luka trade was announced, even before it, because Anthony Davis is an okay defender, but he was hurt, so what did it matter? But, yeah, you trade for Luka, who notoriously is one of the worst defenders in the league, and he just doesn't try. And there's nothing you can do. And you look at Minnesota and credit their players. Jaden McDaniels, 30 points last night. That's what it takes in the playoffs sometimes. Like your role players stepping up. Of course, you have your Anthony Edwards. He's going to be consistent. I think he's played great this series. And his three-point shooting has really come along out of nowhere. He's one of the best three-point shooters in the league all of a sudden. Last night he was 5 of 10. But Jaden McDaniels stepping up. And, again, that's what makes the difference. When the Lakers made their playoff runs, it was Austin Reeves stepping up, coming out of nowhere, having big games. They had LeBron James, they had Anthony Davis, but it was Austin Reeves putting them over the edge. Last night, they don't have that. LeBron, 38 points. I did not realize that. But Luka, again, he was sick, so you kind of got to, put an asterisk there, but also it's the playoffs. Like, nobody cares if you're sick if you end up losing.
Nobody cares.
Luka, 17 points, and he's not feeling well. You've got to have somebody else step up. The next best, again, was Reeves. He had 20, but then you look at the bench. Dorian Finney-Smith had 8 points. Jared Vanderbilt had 3. Gabe Vincent had 5. And then Jordan Goodwin, never heard of him, sorry. He had 3. So it's like you need your bench players to do something.
Right.
Literally anything.
And I think coming into this series, and I think when we were talking last week, I kind of had a feeling that the Lakers were going to go through. But after watching the first 3 games of this series, I think my tune's changed. I think the Timberwolves will end up taking this one, and it has a lot to do with what you're talking about, Christian, is your guys like a Jaden McDaniels stepping up. Anthony Edwards can do a lot for you, but you need more. You need more than just Anthony Edwards. And honestly, Jaden McDaniels, he had 25 in that first game, was also absolutely phenomenal in this last game to put them up 2-1. And then the bench play, man. The bench play from the Los Angeles Lakers,
non-existent.
It's not good. Anytime you have Dorian Finney-Smith coming in, you have Vanderbilt coming in,
Red flags.
There's a significant drop off.
They sent all their depth to Dallas, which it's funny because it wasn't good for Dallas because they don't need depth. They need top-end talent. And it wasn't good for LA because they need the depth along with the top-end talent. Their roster is so thin once you get outside their top 3 players. I'm not surprised if they get eliminated in round 1.
And then you look on the other side, you look at the Timberwolves, Naz Reid comes in, and in that first game, Naz Reid looked incredibly solid. In this one, last night he also looked pretty well.
Game 2 was rough.
Game 2 was rough, I think, for both sides. But coming back to this one, Dante DiVincenzo had a little bit of a better performance off the bench too in this third game. As far as the depth goes, as far as what we're talking about with needing other guys to step up, we've seen that more from Minnesota. We haven't really seen it from the Lakers. And so I think ultimately that will put Minnesota over Los Angeles.
Quick updates from some other series. The Magic and the Bucks both picked up wins last night. Both teams trail those series. Magic, they trail Boston 2-1, and the Bucks trail Indiana 2-1. I think, these are going to be gentlemen's sweeps. I'd be surprised if the Magic or Bucks actually make these series competitive. The Bucks, kind of the same issue as the Lakers. You get outside of Giannis, and it's like, go out there, Kuz.
Look, man, it's kind of interesting to see where the Bucks have gone since winning that championship.
It's sad.
I thought as long as they have Giannis, as long as, Antetokounmpo is playing high-level basketball and being one of the stars in the NBA, I thought that they'd have a window open for a championship, but
to an extent, but then you trade Drew Holiday.
Losing Drew Holiday was a huge piece of the puzzle.
Chris Middleton could barely walk, so he had no trade value when they got rid of him.
Yeah.
Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis are both geriatric. Like, I don't know what the plan is there. They have no money left. They have no draft picks. I don't know what the next few years look like for the Milwaukee Bucks. So this is going to be an interesting offseason for them, assuming that they have a disappointing first-round exit. Celtics, they lost by 2 points last night. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both played, but they were banged up. Drew Holiday was out, speaking of him. So, again, it's just a courtesy win for Orlando. Boston's the much better team there.
It's bound to happen, yes, but I do still hold the Boston at a much higher regard.
On to tonight's games. Miami Heat versus the Cavaliers.
Look, Tyler Hero, phenomenal ball player. He's doing. I think he's had a good series, but the Cavaliers are heads and shoulders above this Heat team.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Magic and the Celtics. Like nobody expects the Heat or the Magic to win these series. Even the East in general. It's going to be Boston and Cleveland in the finals. And if it's any other team, I think we'll all be shocked.
If Cleveland doesn't make it, I mean, we talked about it last week, man. They had a really disappointing exit last season, and they needed to course correct, and they need to prove that they can get over that hill. They can get over that hump. I think so far in this first series, they are proving it, but I think until they're in that Eastern Conference Championship game, there's still going to be they'll question if the Cavaliers can make it. But I think right now they're proving that they can.
Ja Morant out tonight. Memphis is down 3-0 to Oklahoma City. Ja Morant got hurt because he tried to jump over / posterize Lou Dort.
It ain't gonna make a difference.
No, they're going to be out regardless.
Clean sweep from the Thunder, man. Clean sweep from OKC. It ain't gonna make a difference. Ja Morant, thank you for trying.
Yeah.
You know, coming out into the media and saying, we're never going to play that bad again. And then you proceed to play that bad again in the next game. It's embarrassing.
Tickets as low as $12 to see the Grizzlies lose, get eliminated. It is in Memphis, by the way. But yeah, no Ja Morant. Again, the Grizzlies are another team. Going to keep an eye on what they want to do this offseason. They might have to make some drastic changes. I think Ja's time in Memphis might have run out.
That championship window, whatever the Grizzlies had open, it's closed.
It's slammed shut.
Oh, yeah. Which is crazy to say because they have some really good ball players.
Yeah.
Ja Morant, Desmond Bane.
Triple J.
Phenomenal. But for it hasn't worked.
No.
That's why the head coach was fired.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked, and I think that the window for the Grizzlies might have closed.
Nuggets, same thing. And it's hard when you fire. This is why it never made sense to fire Coach Malone right before the playoffs started. They're clearly reeling from that. Jokic is doing Jokic things. I'm not surprised that he's performing, but I mean, the Clippers, they look like a well-oiled machine, and they look like a team. Again, we talked about it last week. They could be a dark horse from the West. I really like Kawhi Leonard. James Harden is doing enough, and it seems like he has found a role and settled in well. He's not trying to be the James Harden that we saw in his prime in Houston. And I think they have what it takes, obviously, to beat Denver. I don't know if they would contend with Oklahoma City in the next round, but it could be a fun matchup. So we'll see there. But I do feel bad for Jokic, and it's just crazy. Again, talking about how quickly championship windows can shut. Denver won the finals 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And now they're on the brink of a first-round exit. They're down 2-1, so there is time, but it's not looking good. Based on how badly they played the other night, I think
that's exactly what I was going to say.
That's what's doing it for me. You look at being down 2-1, and it's like, oh, yeah, they have a chance. But you look at just how poor that loss went, and it's like, yeah, they're done.
There is a chance, and I mean, we've talked about it last week, as long as you have Jokic, you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
But again, we go back to the conversation we just had with the Los Angeles Lakers, other guys need to step up. Other guys need to help.
Your Michael Porter Juniors can't have a cold night from shooting.
1 for 6 that night for Michael Porter, by the way.
If your three-point specialist is missing his three-pointers, you're in trouble.
And I got to give credit, too, to the Clippers, man. When they're healthy, they look like a really good ball team.
Man, if Kawhi Leonard would have had LeBron James durability throughout his career, we're talking about one of the greatest players to ever play.
I would agree.
We're talking about a player whose career at this point is probably better than Kevin Durant's. I mean, even with all the time that he's missed, he's probably neck and neck with KD, if I'm being honest, as far as legacy-wise. But, man, if Kawhi could have stayed healthy, it just makes you wonder. And I hate that. I hate that so much because when he plays, he really is something to watch. And then wrapping things up tonight, Rockets at the Warriors. That series is tied. It's kind of interesting there because, again, with Jimmy Butler being out, the Rockets might have a chance to steal a game or two. So without Jimmy, Golden State kind of needs to button things up and not let Houston get too big ahead.
I still think ultimately the Rockets, with how young they are, compared to a Curry who's had plenty of playoff experience, a Draymond Green who's had plenty of playoff experience, I think ultimately that will factor into it. But it is awesome to see a guy like Şengün step up and kind of elevate this Rockets team. Same thing with Jalen Green. 2 young guys who have a really high ceiling in the NBA step up and take it to Golden State, man. I love to see it. They'll probably continue to steal games here and there, depending on the health of some of those Warrior players, like a Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
But, if Jimmy Butler can come back and this is a Golden State team who's at full strength, I think ultimately Golden State will be able to squeak away.
Yeah, keep an eye on that series. There is a decent chance that Şengün or Jalen Green could potentially be a future Jazzman.
Green had 38 points in Game 2.
Yeah.
Phenomenal performance.
Those are the type of players that the Jazz would need to chase in a potential trade. So we'll see there. The draft lottery, by the way, just under 2 weeks away, or just over 3 weeks, I guess, is the better way to put it. 2.5 weeks. We'll settle in the middle.
May 12th.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, technical fouls. I've got a funny one. Gender reveal gone wrong, sort of. We'll hit that next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
You'll get hit with a bat.
'cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. It's time for Technical Fouls, one of our favorite segments. Every Saturday, we get to talk about some of the funnier things that happen in sports. I'll lead us off today. Speaking of lead off, Bryce Harpe, one of the bigger names in the MLB. I thought this was really funny. So his wife is pregnant.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats to them. And I don't know what number it is. It's not their first kid. I know that. But it's cool, right? And they want to do a gender reveal. And I love this idea. Bryce Harpe, so they told the equipment manager or whatever, and he was the only person that knew the gender. They gave him a pink bat and a blue bat. And when it was time for Bryce Harper's first at bat, he would walk up to the equipment manager and the guy would hand him, the pink or the blue bat.
Nice.
So that was cool. I
like
thought
that.
it was really cool. Bryce takes the bat, and what does he do at the plate, Alex? Do you think he went yard?
No.
He struck out. What about the next at bat?
Oh, no. Did he strike out again?
He struck out again.
Oh!
And what about the third at bat?
Did he strike out again?
He struck out
Oh,
again.
man.
How cool would it have been if he hits a home run? With the blue bat, announcing to the world that he's going to bring a baby boy onto this earth. But no, he strikes out.
See, that would be awesome, man. For him to get a home run and if he got that home run, it would be amazing.
That's awesome.
It'd make SportsCenter, right? It'd be fantastic. But the fact that he steps up and strikes out 3 times in a row, that makes it a technical foul.
Kayla Varner, by the way, is his wife's name.
Love the execution, or I guess the idea.
Yeah.
Don't love the execution.
3 children, and this boy will be their 4th.
Congrats to them, man.
That is cool. Again, yeah, like you said, awesome idea in theory. But then when you strike out, it's like a little
It's not a good look.
it's a little awkward.
It's a little awkward. Look, man, you know what else is awkward? We're going to go back to the NBA playoffs.
Okay.
We just talked about the Rockets-Warriors series.
Uh-huh.
So far, it's been a good series. But at in this last game, the fans started chanting some explicitive chants to Draymond Green.
Why would they do that? He's a great guy.
Great guy.
Notorious great guy. I wonder what bad things they could possibly have to say about Draymond.
So while they were, doing this chant and yelling things in the arena that made it over the broadcast, Steve Kerr.
Really?
It
That's
did.
funny.
It did. Steve Kerr goes on to, goes on in the postgame press conference and pleads to the Houston fans to not yell this chant, to not have this chant,
Say these words.
because his kids are watching.
Oh, man. I wonder if his kids were watching when he had Rudy Gobert in a chokehold.
I wonder if his kids were watching when him and Jordan Poole were going at it in the freaking in training.
Yeah, I wonder if his kids saw that video of him punching Jordan Poole in the face. I did. I wonder if his kids were watching when he stomped on Steven Adams' chest.
He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. He's a great guy, man.
He probably, yeah, anyway.
Look, I get it. I get this. I get Steve Kerr. I get what he's trying to portray.
Coach sticking up for his players.
Sticking up for his players, and, you know, I like that. But to do it for, I guess, for Draymond,
Yeah.
who's been notorious for doing the thing that the coach is telling the fans not to do.
Well, he's a heel.
There you go. That's
That's the problem with this. It's like, you know, looking at it like a superhero movie and saying that the bad guy is too mean or whatever, right? Like that's his job. That's his role. That's what he's supposed to be, the bad guy. He's
Right.
supposed to get in the other team's heads and mess with them. That's literally what he has done his entire career. And to their credit, to his credit, to Steve Kerr's credit, to Golden State's credit, they've won championships because of it. I don't think they win at least some of their championships without Draymond Green on this roster. And I feel very comfortable saying that.
I would agree.
For as great as Steph Curry is, you know, and Draymond Green is a really good defender. It's not like that's all he does, where he comes out and gets your head. He is still a very good defender. But part of what he does is mess with you and annoy you and make you mad and frustrate you. And that is his job.
Get under the skin, man.
And so I get Steve Kerr wanting to say, like, yeah, his kids are watching, so tone it down. But let's not act like Draymond Green is an angel here. We know what he is. Steve Kerr knows what he is. And it does feel a little weird for him to, you know.
Didn't he swear on TV once?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Draymond swore on TV once.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just, again, that's his role, is to just be a loudmouth, and he does it well. And again, it's helped them win a lot of basketball games. So let's not treat this like it's something else, you know?
I get the message.
Yeah.
It just...
I don't know how the question was phrased. I'm wondering if he came out and just said it without being asked, or if he was asked, like, hey, what do you think of this? I think he would have been, Steve Kerr, speaking of him, I think he would have been better off just saying, like, hey, this is playoff basketball. That's what happens. I think that would have been just fine of an answer. You don't need to bring Draymond's kids into this. You don't need to act like Draymond Green is some saint. He's, you know, if
I think that's what puts the sour taste in in the mouth.
If the fans are saying these things about Steph Curry, a lot different.
Yes.
But Draymond Green, 29 fan bases do not like him.
Yes.
And they just happen to be playing one of those 29 fan bases in the playoffs right now.
This seems like it's almost like if, you know, Ime Udoka came out and said don't chant this to Dylan Brooks.
Right. Same thing.
Same thing.
That's his role.
There you go. Technical foul to Steve Kerr.
Yeah. He's, you know, we always talk about like the leaderboard. I feel like Steve Kerr is a sneaky, you know, he probably has a lot.
I think him and Dion will probably.
Dion, Draymond, obviously. I mean, he's probably in the Hall of Fame for technical fouls on our show. All right. We will take a break a little bit over. Coming up next, though, the Utah Utes have a problem. Alex, all of their receivers are hitting the portal.
No.
We'll talk about that next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.